All right. So, my name is Dan-Kilrain,
And I'm Abby.
and this is Work Song Farm. This is our 10th year in business. We have survived for 10 years now.
We sell certified organic produce, flowers, and we're dabbling in some fruit now.
We have about 3 acres in production on a given year. We sell through our CSA, which this year is a little over 100 members. And we do one year-round farmers market now and another farmers market just in the winter.
So welcome to Work Song Farm. We're going to give you a nice little tour of the place. We're located here in Hopkinton, New Hampshire.
We wanted to talk today about staying small, starting small and staying small with a farming enterprise. And it's kind of, it's not because we had the superior wisdom to plan for that at the beginning. We actually had some ideas of where we'd be now after 10 years and the size of the farm, the acreage, the number of CSA members. And kind of by trial and error, we've actually stayed roughly the same size as far as acreage. Yet we've been able to expand our sales and our I guess our yields just by trying to do things better and not necessarily bigger.
So in our first year, 2011 it was, we had gotten a CSA membership of, I think it was 35? I believe was the first year, and then it jumped.
I didn't think it was that many. I think it was
Maybe
like 20, 29.
Ah, yeah, so around 30, which is pretty small, but it worked well for us that first year, not necessarily knowing what we could or couldn't do.
And it was really just the two of us at that point with some help from some friends and family.
Yeah.
And I also was working part-time elsewhere off the farm.
Yeah, and I was here full-time, which was kind of a struggle sometimes. But so it worked out really well, and it happened to just be our close community here. A lot of members just live right up the road, and it's been nice because as we have grown throughout the years, they have stayed, the majority of them have stayed with us. So we've been able to see, their kids grow up and graduate, and they've seen us have kids and start, getting older. It's been really nice having that close-knit community every single year. So the second year, it pretty much doubled. And then it kind of went from there. One year it went up a little too high for our comfort level, and we decided to rein it back down a little bit the following year.
But looking back, I feel like we would have been better off starting out even smaller. In fact, maybe not even doing a CSA at all. Maybe just doing a farmers market, because it's a lot of pressure to have to fill a CSA share for 20 weeks through the summer when you're. And we weren't new to farming. We had both had a good amount of experience in farming for 6 or 7 years beforehand, but we were new to this farm. We're still learning the land and how we could best use it. Like we discovered, one thing was we just can't grow beets here to save our lives. We can do great carrots, but beets just won't grow. And we had this vision at first of trying to grow everything and trying to be like a one-stop shop for our customers. And we've realized over the years that that's not really a smart way to go. it ends up being really frustrating and difficult and not very efficient, and I don't think really necessarily meaningful for our customers. There are certain crops we're not good at growing. There are certain ones we are. We found that we can actually work with other farmers in our area and kind of contract different crops that we don't really like to grow with them. They'll grow them for us, and we just buy them in, and they often do the same with us. If we have an excess or they don't want to do, say, onions, we'll end up selling them a lot of onions in the fall.
Speaking of the onions, we are going to take you on a little tour of the farm to the onion field. You can see how we're doing that. Before we do that, though, we're going to give you a quick shot of our walk-in cooler, which is one thing that we found over the years is something you should really think about investing in early on. In the beginning, we had just like a little cooler and baskets on ice, and we lost a whole lot of product that way. And this nice cooler behind us has been really a very good investment. So you can see in here, Dan and his dad built this, which it's nice to have handy folks in the family. You can see we store everything in these great black crates. We have good humidity. We have a cool bot and an air conditioner to keep it at the right temperature. We have a stack of beer, of course. Gotta have that at the end of the day. And we have currently some of the CSA shares bagged up, ready for delivery. But on a busy day, this place is stacked full of crates all around of various crops.
So yeah, when we talk about starting small, there are certain things you don't want to skimp on, and one of those is storage space. You want to have plenty of room for when you have a big harvest to have a place to put all your crops. And so you can see out here we have big stacks of cold crates that we use to store things in, and that's actually just a fraction of our supply of crates. We keep adding to them over the years. We also added this year a trailer, which is insulated, which we can actually put another CoolBot and AC in and use that for additional cooler space. We also take this to the market, and we keep supplies in here when we're not keeping it cold. So having space to keep not just your crops, but tools and equipment and that sort of thing is, you never have enough of that. So here we are at our onion field this year, and you'll see as you look around our farm, we end up, we have a lot of open space, but we have to carve it up into small parcels because we don't have a nice big expanse of flat, dry, rock-free soil to work with. We have areas that are really wet, and we have really rocky spots and really steep spots that we don't want to be tilling up. And so this patch is less than a quarter of an acre. It's maybe a fifth of an acre. And we have a number of spots around the farm that are between this size and maybe as much as a half an acre in size, but we just can't do anything bigger than that because of the terrain. And ironically, we're talking about being small. This is one of our biggest crops here is our onions. We started out maybe growing around 10,000 onions a year, and now we're up to around 20,000 a year. But that's because we kept thinking we were gonna add more farmers markets, and every year we tried to do that, we we just kept selling more at the one farmer's market we were at, the one in our little town of, I don't know, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 people. And we found it was actually more worthwhile to just stick with one farmer's market and try to do it really well to keep people coming back and give them a reason to keep coming back. And onions were one of those things that we could have not quite year-round, but for a good portion of the year. And it is a year-round market, and we do quite well in the winter because we have things that we can store and have a steady supply of. One thing we started out on a small scale with was trying to go towards no-till farming, or at least minimal tillage, which has become really popular with a lot of small farms these days. And we do a lot with tree leaves that we get in the fall from landscapers who suck them up with their big vacuums and then dump off truckloads of them here at the farm, and they're happy to have a place to do that. And we kind of like them because, for one thing, we know they're probably pretty clean and free of any chemical residues. And so, if you look closely, you'll see we put a really thick layer of these leaves in between our beds, and oftentimes in our beds. So you can see we put these down really thick. I'm still not at the soil here because we really want to smother the leaves out. But this is these we kind of use our leaves in 3 different stages. These ones were basically kind of raw and not decomposed at all, and we use these in our paths. And they're, you get a lot of flat leaves that just kind of smother out the weeds and lay a big blanket on the soil. We'll use slightly more broken down leaves if we want to mulch in around our plants, and we can show you some of that in another spot. And then after maybe 2 years of sitting in a pile, the leaves turn into a pretty nice compost, and we'll use that on some of our finer, smaller crops.
Okay, so here we are in our flower patch. You can see I'm starting to get some trellising up, and we've been mulching with assorted leaves. One thing I wanted to mention about starting kind of small and staying small is our flower side of things has kind of grown, and every year I'm trying to push the limits with season extension. But this year happened to be an incident when I had to rein it in a little bit. What with COVID and being home with the kids more because of childcare and schools being shut down, I had to really focus it in and not overstretch myself with the flowers. So even though I had grand plans, it was wise of us to stay small this year on certain side of things so we don't get in over our heads.
This little pile here is a good sample of our stage 2 leaves here. Not quite whole leaves, but not fully broken down. One of the reasons we've been able to stay small acreage-wise is we keep putting up more high tunnels. This one here behind us is the first one we put up, and that was 9 years ago, I think. I think the first year we were farming here. And now we have 4 of these. In fact, we have 2 up here and 2 in our lower field, and those are actually longer than these. And we're not only able to grow a lot of stuff through the winter, which allows us to increase our sales on that end of the year and not try to grow as much during the summer. But even just having half a house of tomatoes in here, we get more good tomatoes than we do in almost a quarter acre of field tomatoes. So this is one way you can maximize your space.
We were able to do it over time as needed, as our CSA grew and as our market base grew. We were able to add another house every so often instead of doing it all at once and not being able to manage them properly.
Now we're still trying to keep up with the demand.
Thanks for touring our small farm with us.
Yeah, thanks for coming out to our farm. Maybe next time we can do it in person.
Hope you found some of this information helpful. Thanks!
Even some of the equipment we've invested in is on a very small scale, but it still works just fine.